On today's episode of This Week in Canada, Charlie Angus attacks a dead guy.
And Stephen Gilbo hates the internet.
But before we get started, make sure you go below, give us a like and subscribe, and check out all the ways that you could support us in the links
Down below.
Hello and welcome to another exciting week of This Week in Canada. Hello, again, my name is Roberto Wakerel Cruz, and here, as always, is my co-host, Nico Johnson. Nico, why don't you say hello?
Hello, how are we all? Another exciting week. I'm looking forward to this episode, actually.
Yeah, actually, it was a big news week in Canada, so we had to narrow it down again to just a few topics, but don't worry, if you want more, there's premium content that you can find in the links below. But just to get started off on a good one, we want to give you guys some of the cream of the crop in stories, and this one involves an old friend, a man whose journey, in my heart and my opinion of him, has gone through highs and lows like the Millennium Force at Cedar Point. It's a roller coaster. His name's Charlie Angus, and he decided to say some mean stuff about not just Doug Ford, but his dead brother.
Yeah, I mean, and you're totally right about this sort of roller coaster, but it looks more like a sort of curve than a roller coaster for me. You know, I began to really appreciate the guy during the Wii scandal when he worked hand in hand with Pierre Poilievre and Michael Barrett. You know, Michael Barrett's great, had him on the show. And he did such a good job. And then the first thing he did, I think, was that he sort of refused to even have an election, even considered the point of having an election, because the NDP don't have any money. So he gave up all his sort of Wii charity scandal scrutiny just for his party, which was irritating, but perhaps necessary in a political world. But this recent thing, by attacking Rob Ford, who, as we know, was a troubled man, but a good man, I think, was pretty disgusting. Isn't that right, Bobby?
Yeah, so let's pull up the tweet on the screen here. It says, Rob Ford's brother is in charge of the response to the biggest medical crisis in a century. So, I mean, just a total low blow. This tweet was in the morning, too. It's not even like he was at home and having some mojitos and thought this was funny to himself.
Yeah.
It was at like 11 a.m. when he just decided to pull this one out. And as the Toronto Sun pointed out in a story about the same topic, Charlie Angus writes for like the Catholic Times or the Catholic News Agency. He calls himself a good practicing Catholic.
Yeah.
You would like to think you'd see that
And
reflecting
he's
the man.
ethical critic, or like ethics critic, right? Which, you know, perhaps I'm being a bit naive here, but I would suppose that requires ethical behavior. And this to me is just the antithesis of ethical behavior. Look, there's one thing here which I think is important, which is that Charlie Angus is a federal MP, which means it isn't even necessary for him to attack Rob Ford. So he did this out of his own sort of, you know, volition, I suppose. He did it for fun. And then instead of attacking, you know, he is from Ontario, but instead of attacking Doug Ford as a politician would, you know, attacking policies, he really went after him. And, you know, I'm sure you guys don't need a sort of top up of what, you know, Rob Ford went through. But, you know, Mayor of Toronto, he went through a drug addiction, which a lot of people do, right? And you know, it was very, very public. And I think his media people probably didn't do what was best for him. No. But at the end of the day, it's a guy with a drug addiction who died of cancer.
Who's now dead.
Yeah.
There's not even anything. There's no reason to go after a dead guy like that. So just out of spite really quick, I want to pull up a photo of Charlie Angus at a recent press conference where he looks like he looks like Count Dracula. He's like a socialist Count Dracula in a bad tie. He's poorly dressed. So thank you for that one too. And I'm just gonna say I'm done with Charlie Angus. I think I used to like the guy, but as we talked to Michael Barrett maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and not these words, but I could read faces and eyes, and it seemed like Michael Barrett's feelings were hurt by Mr. Angus, and so I'm done with him. Even there's nothing Charlie Angus could do anymore to win my heart back. That's it, period. Yeah. So, you know, do you have any opinions on that?
I think it was well said by you, Bobby. Good point, well made.
Let's pull up that photo of Charlie Angus one more time.
Also, notice in this photo how tired he looks, like under his eyes. I mean, maybe that was it, right? The guy's just stressed and tired and all the rest of it. But I don't know why he is tired, because he doesn't have to fight an election anytime soon until the NDP can get a few more donations. And, yeah, not a good look.
Not a good look. And I also don't know how much validity there are to these quotes, but let's put them up on the screen. Charlie Angus once got accused of being a misogynist. I think he got pulled over by a cop and said something like,
"Hello, officer,"
like that. under his breath. So just that was from like 5 years ago or something, but we're bringing that back now.
I hope that's
It is true. It's
allegedly.
true. Allegedly did that, but it was an article in like the Huffington Post or something. We'll put it up on the screen. But that's coming back now.
Yeah.
Now that's what I remember you for, Charlie. You used to be a sweet, cool, kind of kooky socialist Canadian guy, but now you're just the guy who's a misogynist and attacks dead people.
Welcome back. What a segment. I enjoy attacking the NDP. I think they deserve everything they get because they've basically become useless, in my opinion. Because the Liberals, right, have veered so far to the left. Remember the sort of Jean Chrétien and Paul Martin days when they were sort of respectable when it came to the economy? Now they basically serve the purpose of a sort of inflated NDP. And that means they are totally redundant. But that aside, we're going to talk about one of our favourite Liberal MPs. You know him for such acts as climbing the CN Tower. I think he tried to save the whales. But we don't like him much, really, Bobby, do we?
No. And his name is Stephen Guilbeault. He is a MP. I think he might be our MP or very close to us. I think he might be Papineau or something. No, that's true. Anyway, he's somewhere around here. I've seen him around town. And this guy, look, we'll pull up the article or a photo of him rather. Kind of a dork-looking guy. He was in Greenpeace, activist kind of guy.
Yeah.
But he's the Heritage Minister of Canada. He has been for a little bit now. And he's taken upon himself this weird new mission that is not really the Heritage Minister's job.
When does the Heritage Ministry...
Let me tell you guys what it is. So Stephen Guilbeault has decided as the Heritage Minister that it's his job to make the internet safer. Essentially censor the internet. It's a law that he admits himself is not really in any other countries, and there's good reason for that. Basically, he said in a video conference with some committee that his job is to ensure the safety and security of the Canadian population. Not his job. You think that would be the defense minister's job, not Stephen Guilbeault or the public safety minister. That he would be tabling new legislation in the next couple weeks that would introduce new laws that would ensure that any website that posts hateful content would have to remove it within 24 hours. It would be flagged and it had to be removed or else they would face fines. And this legislation itself would go beyond the criminal code. So any hate speech, sexism, which is already covered by hate speech laws
made
and
in the 70s.
The law that has been around forever. This would go beyond that, probably create a whole bunch more bureaucracy. You'd probably never be able to appeal any of this or know why things were being removed from your private website. Even if you run a domain in like Russia or Uzbekistan or something, why you have to remove it or get removed off the Canadian internet. Something weird, some really weird legislation. So let me read it. We can pull up the article right now. It says, once a publication is flagged, it will have to be taken down within 24 hours of having it flagged. There are not a lot of countries that are doing that right now, which makes perfect sense because it's an insane law to create some sort of weird Canadian intranet kind of thing where it's like only Canadian content. It's basically filtering content on the internet through what is deemed acceptable by the Trudeau Liberals, which, I mean, we already had the Trudeau Liberals try to decide who was black enough to get a black business loan. And we saw how quickly that backfired when someone who was black applied and the government deemed him not black enough. So just imagine that his mission to try to remove hate from the internet, it's like trying to remove a yolk from an egg. The internet is inherently hateful because it's filled with like 12-year-olds who don't understand consequence yet. So there's going to be a little bit of anger on there. And it's not Stephen Guilbeault's job to get rid of it.
Yeah, so there's two, I think, points of concern about this. Firstly, this bill implies that there's going to be some extension to the already made hate speech laws. And obviously this is going to be sort of internet focused, but Guilbeault and the Trudeau government have yet to define what the hate speech will be. You're not allowed to be hateful in a way that's like aggressive already. And I think what's going to happen is that it will seep into sort of censorship and unnecessary censorship, and he will be taking down websites which don't necessarily deserve it, especially if it's within 24 hours. I mean, what sort of time is that for bureaucrats to do anything?
Yeah.
They can't do anything within 24 hours. They can pull up their trousers in 24 hours. The second point, which concerns me, is that, and particularly concerning this extension of the hate law, who firstly defines what is hate, And secondly, who then decides to issue the consequences?
Right.
And the way it seems to me is that it's going to be Stephen Guilbeault.
Personally.
Yeah. And like, I think this is so obviously problematic, and yet they're powering ahead with it. I mean, this has been such an ordeal. This has been 2 years in the making, where he goes out on CTV, says he's going to create a register of sort of internet companies who have been offending, and then he sort of walks back, and then he says he's going to do censorship, and then he walks back from that.
Yeah.
But it's very clear that the Trudeau Liberals have been intending to do this all the way along. And if I was going to be really, really cynical, I suspect that this bit of legislation won't actually happen till after the election, where they're hoping to get a majority, where they can easily get it through Parliament.
Yeah.
And it's kind of dangerous. I mean, it's obviously overtly dangerous.
Yeah, out of all the ministers, all the cabinet in the Trudeau world, Trudeau government, he definitely seems like the most ideological and power hungry to me, because this is the same guy, may I remind you, that said he was going to put out what he basically described as like journalist licenses.
Yeah. Defined by the government.
Defined by the government of who's a verifiable source for truth or whatever, something similar to that. We'll pull up the article there. And so what is fueling this this new idea, this legislation? Well, it's from a survey by the Canadian Race Relations Foundation. And what this found was that 93% of Canadians believe that online hate speech and racism are a problem, and that 80% of Canadians want social media companies to be required to remove racist or hateful content within 24 hours. So this is basically what the law is based off of. I'm not going to say that the laws on internet are perfect. Obviously, when the internet came out, it boomed in a big way that no one saw coming, and it takes a long time for laws to go through slow-moving systems with checks and balances. So is it perfect? I mean, no. But I don't think a whole new bureaucratic nightmare is going to fix it overnight. I think Stephen Guilbeault thinks it would, because I think he just believes in the biggest government possible. I think he's a bit prone to being hijacked by ideology. He's probably the most dangerous man in my eyes in that cabinet. In terms of ideology. I don't like him at all.
The Trudeau Liberals snatched Guilbeault off the Green Party. He was originally going to run for the Green Party, and I think the Trudeau Liberals had to make some concessions for him. But he's clearly a radical. And the fact that he has so much power within the government, I mean, not just, as a heritage minister, but he's pulling powers from other ministries and then making it his own, which is concerning in its own right. And secondly, another bit of Guilbeault news for you all. Today's Earth Day, when we're recording it.
Yes.
Whatever. But Guilbeault decided to wear a T-shirt which says "Climate change is real," which sort of replicates the sort of "I love oil and gas" T-shirts you see. And Erin O'Toole sort of ran in one of those shirts.
We'll put it up.
Yeah. Here's the image. But why is that necessary? But anyway, one of the Conservatives saw this and then I think when the two of them were at the same age, like 20 or 21, Guilbeault was climbing the CN Tower and getting arrested, and O'Toole was in the military. I mean, what a waste of skin,
Yeah, I agree. How did he do the CN Tower thing? I guess we can't show footage because it's from CBC and we'll get taken off the internet for that. But
we get censored by Guilbeault.
Anything else on that one?
I don't like the guy.
Me neither. Let's go to the end. That was a pretty fun episode.
Jeepers Creepers. That was one of the funnest episodes we've had in a while.
Yeah, it was pretty jam-packed with topics because we were very passionate people, and we know you are too. So if you like the content that you saw today, you should go to the links below, give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and support us in all these ways possible. You can check out the premium episode, which I believe is going to be free again this week. It's audio only, and it's just more of me and Nico chatting about this week in Canada type topics. A lot of Canadian news, but it's a little more laid back, a little more fun. You can go and like our Facebook page. Make sure you do that and show us your support. It's the easiest, simplest, lowest just way that you can support us, but it does mean a lot to us. You could also buy a t-shirt. Make sure you buy our beautiful t-shirts. Actually, I have one on right now. You could buy one of these lovely looking red t-shirts, or plenty of our other gear. We have mugs and stuff. I think we might have toques. A lot of fun stuff. Or you could just give us a donation at our PayPal. Everything goes a long way, and we love you dearly. Nico, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, thanks for letting me talk, Bobby. I really enjoyed the show. And yeah, do everything that Bobby told you. And I'll miss you all dearly. Until next week.
Follow me on Twitter.